Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Eric Rosen for Viking Rising Astrology, your daily horoscope for Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. Thanks for being here. There's a lot of other places you could be, right? It's Moon and Sag Day. There's plenty to get down on. There's plenty emotionally drawing our attention, but you're here. So thanks for checking this out. What I do want to say is, let's be careful on a day like today. Let's not create false positives, but also false negatives too. I mean, with the sun still crossing the south node, starting to make aspects over to the outer planets of Pluto and Capricorn and also Neptune and Pisces, we really don't want to try to drown ourselves in some type of schizophrenic thinking of thinking that everything's either falling apart or even trying to make up a story that everything is going well, that somehow we're going to make this miraculous recovery, and things are going to all of a sudden feel abundant and amazing. Unfortunately, we're not in that astrology, and you got to be honest, guys. I mean, we're really not going to be in that energy for quite some time. It could be years. I think we're still settling into the realistic fact, that this reality is very much changing. The times that they are changing, as Bob Dylan said, with Pluto, moving forward towards Aquarius, although that's gonna take till next year. Just the understanding that we're very consciously aware as a collective of what this means for fears of death and destruction in our own personal life and in the world with war, and just even though it's a lot of propaganda stuff, I mean, there absolutely is great opportunities for us to remember who the fuck we really are. And I think on days like this where we get out of more of the collective stories or stories about where our relationships are at, that's a real doozy. We really got to be careful about that one. And, to find a sense of still ambition and drive and tenacity, and I would say our tougher moments, to still keep the optimism. I think we're getting a dose of true serum a little bit in terms of where we're flailing, where we're maybe still playing victim in our lives, and we want to be careful to not try to maintain some strong ego identity that we're more balanced than what we are, and actually look at the places, what are the reoccurring looping thoughts and imbalanced energies, especially spiritually, subconsciously, that we keep coming back to, and we're not either making decisions on, or we're not really driving ourselves forward on something. We can't get attached to the results of things for sure, but I think what the universe is really waiting for us to do is to take the exit of the subconscious, I call them blue pill patterns, where we go back into our own subconscious, matrix that our personal programming of how we live our lives, and just fuck the world narrative stuff for a little bit, even though there can be a reflection there, and actually go into what is the depths of your true nature as a spirit, and to keep awakening that part. I think that's where the real joy, the optimism, the feel-good energy comes from, is remembering that part. And that's going to take everything from the grounded basic nature of our day-to-day lives all the way up to the spiritual connection. I would say this is great opportunities for working with the spiritual aspect of things, of calling in your higher self or your guides or your angels. And if there's moments where you get too much into the mind and thinking and your ideas and stuff like that, to ask, for that grounded nature, to ask for the grounding, to ask for the resolve, to ask for the truth in the relationships and the projects and the situations. And I would finally say too, that it's when that information comes in and that clarity is there and you feel that passion and strength, act immediately. Do not fucking hesitate. This is don't hesitate astrology. When you do get the calibration, when you do get the alignment in your energy, actually make that decision, not by saying, yes, I'm doing this, or, affirming it to, somehow just feel stronger, but not actually experience the strength by actually putting an external conduit outlet to that aligned energy. If we hesitate on that, I think that's where we go back into our weird subconscious patterns. And I gotta be honest, we can get lost really quick and defeated if we're not paying attention to like those moments of that phoenix rising, that resurrection, where we actually can take tried and true actions that doesn't matter spiritual, not spiritual, whether it's 2023 or not. There's some things that stand the test of time with Pluto and Capricorn. It's a remembrance that, you take care of business, you show up, you work things out and be basically a networking nut is how I would kind of put this astrology a little bit of like, don't be afraid to still, be the spiritual essence of you and, that drive and that tenacity, but connect it in more of a way that like understands of like how you're moving things forward, like still be business savvy, still be that expression that moves things forward, and don't just get like lost into the minutia, the minutes of the day, or just like trying to get through a day. We want to start to get out of our survival tactics. That's where we'll really lose our connection spiritually really quick into our grounded natures. We're playing into these false realities that somehow, we don't feel balanced, we don't feel good, or we don't feel creative, or we don't feel spiritual or something. And then we fall into these weird ruts, and before we know it, we're not even connected to anything that even resembles the true identity of us, all the way from the human to the spiritual level. So I'm calling this kind of a red flag sort of day, to not isolate ourselves like with our thinking, and to actually just find the joy, find the moments, find the good stuff that comes up, and see that, we've got some weird days ahead as we're going into this lunar eclipse. And this lunar eclipse is meant to position us in Aries for a stronger sense of leadership, to release anger, frustrations, letting the past be the past, and come to more of a deeper understanding that just even if we feel behind the eight ball, or stuff's happened in life, or things don't feel aligned fully or in the harmony and the balance that we want, that it doesn't mean that we actually have to push harder. It's actually, the buildup of this lunar eclipse is going to be teaching us how little we actually have to do. And believe it or not, it's actually when we were trying to do too much and fell into too much of a cerebral understanding of how to conquer mountains that never even needed to be conquered in our lives in the first place, that weren't even designed for our destiny, our reality, is actually what created some of the hardships for us. And that applies to every area of life: money, relationships, project, job situations. We can't keep fueling the stimulus machine that's actually taken us away from the deeper, truer spiritual essence of who we really fucking are, and who we really want to show up as, and actually go and be that thing, and see that everything else is just our own personal propaganda. It's our own just distractions to try to create a fantasy sort of island that feels bigger than what it is subconsciously, and actually be realistic about, you have a destiny, you came here, execute it, show up, do the things, have the conversations, and don't put yourself in a weird space where you think things like aren't working out, because this is really not the time to double down on like what you think the real truth and story is in your life. If anything, this is more of a time to like let it loose from the spiritual essence of yourself, and kind of be like, fuck around and find out. And if you cross the line with something, cool, like you find a way to come back into integrity, you sniff out the energy and you go for it, right? You keep things moving forward. We cannot get down, we cannot beat ourselves up this week. We cannot use this astrology to cast really wicked judgments against ourselves, or especially our relationships, and pathologizing our partnerships. You will flounder so quickly if you begin doing that. This is more of a time of celebration, to see that even in the toughest of astrology, and like these weird, strange outer reality shifts that we're going through, and this, in between these eclipse portals and aspects of the sun on the south node to outer planets, of what's actually real and not real. We always know the celebration of, a grander sense of spirit is always behind the stuff, even if we're not connected to it. So just because, even if you can't feel it in every moment, it doesn't feel the way that you want it to, just remember it's still there. This is definitely a faith day. Have faith. Don't lose the belief and the positivity in yourself and the things that you're doing.